Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on time. I apologize to any of our Dubai colleagues who might be listening in. I know it's very early for you, but unfortunately, we felt this was the time slot where we could get everyone present all at the same time. I know it's been a long while since we had the last town hall, so again, apologies for that. I'm getting all the apologies out of the way nice and early. It wasn't deliberate. It was just the fact that lots of us were traveling. We didn't want the town hall to sort of coincide or to be around the 1/4s, which was an extremely important, busy time of year for us. So hence why we've pushed it back a little bit. Ideally, we'd want to do this much earlier during the first quarter. So apologies for having left it so late this year. We've got a packed agenda, as I said. So if I just share with you who's going to be speaking, what are we going to be talking about? I'm not going to be talking for very long. 5-10 minutes at the most. We'll get, since we now have two CEOs, I think it's fair that you get to hear from both of them in terms of progress that we're making. A year ago when we were sat, or when we were in Suntec doing the first town hall, it was all about strategy. It was a lot around what are we planning to do going forward as a business? What do we need to do to ACR to take it post-Atlas? So there was a lot of thinking and a lot of thinking around ideas in terms of how we transform this business. I think it's fair to say we've moved on significantly in 12 months, and there's been a huge amount of work that's been done and a huge amount of progress. So I think it's great that these guys can kind of bring you up to speed a little bit in terms of what's been going on from a business perspective and how we're tracking progress-wise. Okay? You will also hear from Mayuri, in terms of how we're doing or how the financials for year 2088 or where we ended up, as well as how did we start the year for 19, the first quarter. Recognizing it's still very early on, but I think once you've seen the numbers, particularly for 19, you'll start to get a sense of the progress that we're making. Okay. Menying will take us through the latest update on the operational transformation project, which is a key core part of, again, of the whole transformation of ACR. Red, in John Kenny's absence, will take us through a really nice piece of work that's been done, collaborative piece of work that's been done by a number of our functions. And then Jason will take us through Office 365. Wailun, Wailin, and Wailun, again, those three segments, 8, 9, and 10, kind of segue into each other, which are more around culture, or risk culture, having an understanding of what a risk culture means. But also, there's also a fun element to it, so I won't burst their bubble. And that is why you're sat in 4 different bits, but Wailun will reveal all in good time. And then, of course, we always leave some time for Q&A. Okay? So we've got a lot. There's also a break of around 15 to 20 minutes. We are raising some money this time. I'm doing a little bit of an adventure, 3-day getaway with Aon in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. There's been a lot of training involved. As part of that, we are running, trekking, walking 20 kilometers a day in Bhutan. Sort of, you might say it's not very long, it's not very far, but it's of altitude, so it is a little bit taxing. I am getting a little bit old. There's some even older people than me, so we're a little bit worried about how we all fare. But it is all for a good cause. It's for a Bhutanese charity that looks after young kids, helps to sort of educate, helps to look after them, and give them a good start in life. So your support would be much appreciated. Anything that you can contribute would be great. Huiza is going to be selling some Bhutanese products, so please feel free to spend a couple of minutes browsing around if you'd like to contribute. Okay? So without further ado, let's get into the first bit. So as I said, we've been very, very busy in the last 12 months, and particularly last quarter of the year from a recruitment perspective. We've got 15 names there who've just joined us, and as usual, please stand up if you're one of those new people who've just joined us in the last 3 months. In Singapore, I know we can't see you in Hong Kong, we can't see you in Dubai. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm not sure where the other 5 are, but I'm sure they'll turn up at some point if they're in Singapore. Thank you very much. I think what it says, it just highlights the fact that, yes, whilst we're replacing some colleagues who've left, who've moved on, we've also got a whole load of new colleagues who've joined us, particularly on the underwriting and the claims piece. And this is a commitment that we've made to invest in this business. and investing in as we say, frontline resource. Frontline resource in terms of market-facing resource. Resource that's going to really help us in terms of changing how ACR deals with clients and brokers. So a significant amount of investment in new underwriting faces. And there are a few more that will turn up come the next time we have a town hall. Okay? Investment on the claims side as well. We recognize, as I always say, claims is such a key core part of what we offer and what we're here to do. If we don't pay our claims, if we don't look after our clients, we don't have a business. Okay, so welcome to all of you. As well as that, we have great colleagues who've just joined us from a claims perspective, operational perspective, TUO, so on and so forth. Welcome to ACR. I hope you have great, fruitful careers ahead of you. And thank you for trusting us with your careers. A little bit about cyber awareness. I'm not going to bore you. I'm not going to be talking too much about this. This is just my plea to you to be sensible when it comes to cybersecurity and IT security. Okay? You're all trained. You all get regular updates. You all get regular training in terms of how to be more cyber aware, how to make our security more robust, how you help the IT team in protecting us against scams, phishing, so on and so forth. But nothing stops us sometimes from having a silly moment. So what I would say to you is, if you're getting emails, you're getting a request, particularly to send information or to send attachments from people you've never heard from people you're not familiar with, from people who wouldn't usually ask you to do stuff like that, just pick up the phone and speak to them. Nothing beats speaking to someone. You're not going to get told off. You're not going to get in trouble for asking the question. You're more likely to get in trouble for not asking the question by phone or speaking to someone. Email is terrible because email is a very quick way of just sending something and moving on. Okay? Most of us in Singapore, we sit on one floor. Just walk around. Okay? If it's someone from an overseas office or someone from an external vendor, pick up the phone and speak to them and make sure that they are who they are. And that's the simplest, fastest way of avoiding any issue. Okay? If it's me who's asking you to do something, if it's Sergey, if it's any other member of ExCo, again, you won't get in trouble or you won't get, there's no ramification for you picking up the phone or checking with any of us that we're asking you to transfer money, to pay an invoice. Usually we won't do, so it's not us. Okay? Or to send data or info across. Because however harmless that info may be, if it does get in the wrong hands, it creates an enormous amount of trouble for us. Not so much from a financial perspective, but from a regulatory perspective and from a legal perspective. Okay, and that's where the bulk of the management time, the bulk of our time, having to look after that is the real cost of the business, and reputationally as well. Okay, so please just be sensible. Okay, and I'm really looking to you for your help in helping us to manage this. Okay, that's enough about cyber. A few things that are going on, which I think would be nice to share. Our Hong Kong colleagues are moving to a brand new location in a few weeks. I'm not quite sure. Jo isn't here, so she can't confirm the date, but I don't think... William, do you know exactly when? 23rd of May. Okay. For those of you who've been to Hong Kong or had been to Hong Kong previously and visited our colleagues, we weren't exactly in the middle of where it was all happening. We were a little bit in the back of Kowloon, away from brokers, away from clients. Didn't really make it easy for us to be part of a reinsurance community. We are moving to a brand new office space in Lee Gardens, which is bang in very, very close, very central, on the island. Aon, Marsh, Willis, I can't say JLT anymore. Aon, Willis and Marsh are not very far away. It just means that for our colleagues working in Hong Kong, it's much easier to see brokers, much easier to see clients, much easier to feel part of a community, and much easier to get in touch with some of the other reinsurance outfits in Hong Kong so they can have conversations, feel looped in, and feel part of the reinsurance community. So I think that's great, and it's going to be a really nice space. You will also have noticed, for those of you who work in Singapore, that we're tearing down the reception and sort of redoing large parts of the underwriting floor. And it's mostly the underwriting floor right now. Okay? Once that's done, I hope you will appreciate the new look and feel of that space. Okay? What we're trying to create is a common look for all our offices for ACR. So whether you work in Dubai, whether you work in Singapore, Hong Kong, so on and so forth, when you walk in, it should all look the same. So if you happen to be traveling, if you're seconded, if you're spending any time in any other offices, if you walk into any of these offices, it will have an ACR look. And that is what we're trying to achieve. Commonality of look, okay? So you feel at home in any space, any offices where you walk into. And therefore, that has a branding aspect to it. Any of our brokers, any of our clients who walk into any of our offices should expect the same consistent level of service, consistent level of welcome, and consistent level of ability in each and every one of those offices. Okay? That is the aim. There's a cosmetic, aesthetic angle to it, but ultimately it's around achieving consistency and a consistent culture. Okay? You might think it's not a big deal, but believe you me, it is a big deal once you put all of it together. Okay? So that's Hong Kong. Brokers and clients, I'm going to let Soren and Ronnie touch a little bit more in terms of their view of how our interaction has changed. I'm not going to say whether it's improved or got worse. I'll let them talk about what they're seeing from a broking perspective and the feedback that we're getting, particularly from the external world. So I won't talk too much about brokers and clients. I think financial year 2019, we'll touch upon that, some of the key bits in terms of performance so far, year to date, as well as KPIs. Because I know that is key. You want to know how you're going to be measured. You want to know how we're going to be measured as a team of people. So I'll touch upon that a little bit later on. And finally, ACR Acrth. Where are we and what are we doing? So we had two companies, one in Bahrain and one in Malaysia, that we put into runoff approximately 18 months ago. We've been progressing well in terms of winding those two businesses down. The Bahraini one is very close to being wound down. There are a few administrative, legal, regulatory steps that we have to go through, but we're making very good progress. And similarly with Malaysia as well. So once that's done, we can finally put those two businesses to bed and then devote our time to looking after the core of our insurance, reinsurance business. Okay, so very good progress and a lot that's been going on from a Acrth perspective. For those of you who've been helping and working as part of that exercise and effort, thank you very much again, because I know that wasn't necessarily part of your day job, but it has become part of your day job over the last 18 months, so thank you. In terms of corporate KPIs, and let me just address this, and again, we should have addressed this much earlier on in this year, okay? Quick recap. For 18, we were going to be judged on 4 key core components: TCR, OPEX, ROE, and strategy, okay? And they had different weightings to it. Strategy was 50%, so qualitative and quantitative, which is numbers, drove the other 50% of the bonus pool, okay? Now, if you look at the TCR, on target meant that we should have achieved a TCR of 90.9% or better, okay? The actual TCR for 18 was 97.7, not great, okay? And we could spend hours talking about why we achieved that TCR and why it clearly didn't meet our target and aspirations. If I'm frank with you, that was largely down to one aspect, which was cat events in Asia over 2018. Okay? Asia in 2018 had a very busy and unfortunately very costly cat year. And by cat, I mean cyclones, typhoons, earthquakes, floods, so on and so forth. Okay? We had Japan, which is one of our key core markets, had the busiest typhoon season in 26 years. Okay? There were 2 big typhoons that made landfall in Japan, Trami and Jebi. Jebi is now forecast to cost around $10 to $12 billion, or $12 billion of claims. Okay? Originally, Jebi was supposed, when they had the first estimates, Jebi was supposed to be a $3 to $4 billion event. So it's blown up quite significantly. $12 billion is a lot of money. Okay? So Trami is around $4 to $6 billion. We had floods in India, Kerala. We had a small cyclone in the Middle East, Makunu. We had a typhoon that went through Hong Kong and southern China. Not Hato, what was it last year? Mangkhut? Sorry, thank you. So therefore, quite a busy cat year compared to the norm. Okay, that is essentially why our combined ratio, or rather our TCR, didn't quite get to where we expected it to be. Okay, so some significant cat events, which has contributed to that. We did a great job of looking after our OPEX and managing our OPEX. Clearly, not achieving the TCR is directly linked to not achieving the ROE as well. Okay, so these two kind of go hand in hand. From a strategic perspective, I think the board were pretty happy with the progress that we've made. As I said, there's a lot of work that's gone on over the last 12 months, getting people in, getting business plans, rebranding the business, the culture piece, a lot of the work that's gone on around culture last year. All of that is reflected in terms of the strategic piece that went on last year. We also said when we set the KPIs last year in 2018 that you're not going to see much change going forward. They're going to be quite consistent in terms of KPIs going forward. Because if they're consistent, you have a clear idea of what it is that's expected of us. What may change will be the weighting. Okay? And that's precisely what the board and the management team have agreed for 2019. So the technical ratio again, when we're looking for an improvement from last year on the basis of the work that we're doing to change the underlying portfolio, to improve the underlying portfolio. Okay? So in terms of KPIs, exactly the same, 18 going to 19. What changes is a little bit of the weighting. So the 3-year strategy, on the basis that we're now in year 2, we've set the strategy. It's now around executing and implementing it. Doesn't carry as much weight this year as it did last year. Okay? So the quantitative KPIs, the numbers bit, become more important as we move on. If we're here next year, same time, 2020, you'll probably see the same KPIs again, but the 3-year strategy, instead of being 35, will probably reduce to 20. 2021, it'll probably drop off. Okay? And it's going to be the numbers that we're going to be worrying about mostly, but there may be another qualitative KPI that may come in. Okay? So consistency, again, giving you a clear idea of what we're looking for, what we're looking to achieve. All right? Before I move off, any questions around the KPIs? I know I've gone through it very, very quickly. But if you have any questions, any observations, happy to hear them now or during the Q&A session. No? Okay. Sorry, that basically just gives you a little bit more of a breakdown as to what those KPIs mean from a qualitative perspective, the KPIs. What are some of the key things that we've committed to doing for 19, and therefore how we're going to be judged by the end of it. Okay. There's some quite specific things. For example, China and India, we want a deeper dive in terms of how we transact, how we have more of a strategic view around those 2 key territories. But none of this on here should be a surprise to any of you. You will have seen much of this from last year brought forward into 19. Okay, that's enough from me. We'll get Soren up here and he'll give you a quick feel of how the treaty portfolio has been performing in 19 and some of the changes that we've made.
Yes? Here we go. Perfect. Morning, everyone. Bobby generally spoke about the results from last year, so I won't dive too much into 2018. I think it's time to look forward. I'll keep this reasonably short. Just a quick update on where we were, we ended up at 1/1 and 1/4, which are the 2 main renewals as far as Asian treaty renewals are concerned. I think we had a really, really good start into the year in both renewals. So the most important one is always the measure to see, our attrition and what do we keep. We pretty much defended all the lead positions that we had, which is ultimately, our face to the market as well, where we set the terms. ACR is at the top of the slip. and other reinsurers in the region follow our lead here, right? So we managed to defend most of those. We picked up a couple of new ones here and there. You always lose some, but it's overall we're quite happy where we ended up. We still discontinued a fair amount of business at 1/1, in line with the original plan that we set out last year when we did the planning. Again, continuing from the previous years, still some pruning to do in areas like in our Chinese pro rata book. We had some non-performing business in other parts of the portfolio. It was a little bit beyond the normal re-underwriting that you do on an annual basis. So we're still purely on the treaties. As a company, we came off about $55 million worth of business. About 35 of that was on the non-specialty treaty side. But ultimately, we ended up replacing all of this and some with new business that kind of nicely complements now the portfolio that we have, right? So you see the line is slightly above that. March is not such a big renewal. April, again, was a very successful renewal for us. On the one, a lot of it was actually driven by rate change. So we had, as you know, significant losses in India last year, but also in Japan. And both markets have reacted quite strongly as far as pricing is concerned. So in Japan, loss-affected programs saw rate increases of about 25%. Is 25% the right number? It's definitely moving the right direction. Some people wanted a little bit more. Obviously, clients originally wanted to pay less. But I think it sets the bar. And pretty much the non-affected business was either flat or slightly up to 5%. India was a bit more mixed. We saw some programs that were more loss affected over the last couple of years that saw up to 40% rate increases. Other programs saw 10 to 15. But again, on average, I think we're up by about 20%. So a lot of the growth that you see in here is not necessarily extra exposure that we take on the books. So a lot of that is driven by price, so we get more dollars for the exposure we're putting out. In addition, we had some good wins, particularly in Japan, where the last 2 or 3 years, with the messaging in the market, a bit of uncertainty around ACR, we had actually been taken off some business, not by our choice. But I think the team has done a great job over the last, especially 18 to 24 months, to kind of reconnect with clients, send a consistent message out there, and it's really been rewarded. So I'm very pleased that a couple of accounts that we haven't seen for 2 years now were shown to us again. We managed to get some good signings on the existing business and put some additional lines on there as well. So and Japan is a very important part as an anchor stone in any kind of Asian portfolio. So we're quite happy with that as well. One of the big items that we had in the budget, we've been talking about this a lot, is the BMW quota share, which is about $50 million for us. In the plan, we only allocated about $10 million for that, because there's always this uncertainty if it goes in, if it goes out. But happy to say we renewed it at unchanged terms, so that one comes in. So any kind of plan numbers that we show, I think we always have to look at those with and without, because obviously it's a $50 million deal on a portfolio of that size. It's quite meaningful. So clearly with BMW in, we're way ahead of our plan numbers. But even without the BMW numbers, we're significantly above where we wanted to be, right? And then you see, treaty, we spoke about this the last time, the majority of the renewals is 1/1 and 1/4. So I think all things being equal, we should have a pretty decent year in the coming year. A couple of points, I think we also spoke about initiatives that we wanted to address in 2019. One of it was our new international expansion. I think here the team had a really, really good start as well. Last year at 1/1, we wrote less than $1 million. This year we came close to 20. A lot of hard work went into the marketing side with Sonmai Kunal last year, visiting the conferences, having engaged with brokers, sending out the message, clarifying our risk appetite, and continue to do so in January and in February. And I think it really paid off. It's still a slow start for us. It's a small part of the portfolio, but I think that's exactly where we wanted to be in a new part of the book, right? Very happy with where we are. We have a little bit more to do in July now in the Australian renewals, but hopefully we'll have a good start. All things being equal, have a decent result in 2019, and that will really form a great base for our plans in 2020 and 2021. Another area that we spoke about was shifting the portfolio a little bit from a heavily pro rata-based book to a more excess of loss focused book, which again, in an Asian context, it's not that straightforward because the majority of treaty business bought in Asia is proportional. So if you want to have 80% of your portfolio a non-proportional book, it's going to be very difficult to engage with clients because they need the proportional capacity as well. We came from an 80-20 base. We were about 75-25 at 1-1. And obviously with Japan growing and Indian rates on excess of loss going up, if we take BMW out, because that's a pure proportional account, we ended up at around 65-35, which is a really, really good outcome and should, again, add to the profitability of the portfolio going forward. Just one thing also worth addressing. We spoke last year in the September town hall about the structure that we wanted to have for the treaty team. We used to have the Greater China team, the Asian team, including Middle East, and then we had a NetCat unit as well, and a structured solutions unit that sat under Desmond's team. So we obviously set up the international team with the changes that we had, both from an underwriting perspective, but also personnel-wise. We did not refill the positions on the NetCat side. Okay, so these got absorbed into the regional units, and likewise, we did so with the structured solutions team. Okay, I just want to make it very clear, all these changes have nothing to do in any shape and form with the colleagues that were running these units or that were engaged in the business activities. Ultimately, similar to other activities in this company, it's all about making it efficient, making it ACR easy to trade with. Our business life is already complex enough. And if a broker or a client wants to find a supporter, and we got that feedback a lot. I'm only here for 6.5 months now. When you travel, people go, look, we don't know who to talk to. And that's not a good start for any conversation, right? We all know there's enough capacity out there. If you make it difficult for clients to trade with you, they will just go somewhere else, okay? So going forward, we will still write NetCat business. We will still support structured solutions, even though the latter one on a less focused way. It is a nice support to business that we do. To me, it's not a focus area for the next 1 or 2 years, okay? So ultimately, all the activities that we fulfilled before will still be fulfilled, but ultimately they will be subsumed into the individual units, which makes it more effective to engage with us going forward. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Time flies. This is my second town hall. The first one I joined was on my second day of ACR, 18th of December. So I would like to say thank you to everyone who actually provide a very good support, not only to myself, because I'm new here, I'm asked a lot of stupid questions, but also to my team, my Frank and Specialty team, because as you know, we're doing a lot of surgeries to our basics fundamentals. So I will go in, a little bit details, and that I really appreciate. It's a true example of collaboration and ownership. Really, I really appreciate it. Thank you, and of course, thank you to my teams who've been working very hard, to reboot the whole operation, right? Frank and Specialties. Just to tell you some of the feedback from our brokers and clients. Some of them didn't even know we write Frank business when we, visit overseas, or some of the brokers here said, and they're actually very happy to see, ACR is now re-engaging them. Not only do we have more presence and visibilities in front of our clients, both cedents and brokers, they are actually some of our brokers seeing us as a strategic partner. So in the next 2 months, we're going to host roundtable strategic meetings with the brokers, especially, to nail down 2 or 3 key initiatives for each of the brokers, and then we can follow up on the regular meetings. So this is very exciting news to all of us here, because we are now making a lot of waves and noise in the market. Now it's time for us to deliver, okay? So that's a general feedback about Frank and Specialty, and I do not take credit for that, because I know a lot of hard work actually started before I joined since last year. So thank you very much. So as I said, right, basically just on the fact side, right? So our business is actually rebooted. We have a lot of newcomers, and also a long-time employees. So the operation is actually rebooted. So if you just look at the I won't bore you with all the details and numbers, but if you can look at the overall, this is up to last week, the April result, the business on the top line. So we are achieving 8% growth from last year. But then we are still short of our plan. But I'm going to explain to you why we are having these gaps, right? So let's say for PanFrac, where is Nick? Okay, so for PanFrac, we are only achieving 80% of last year and 91% of plan. But mind you, because we are doing a lot of re-underwriting, so we came off about 4.5 million business for first quarter, basically mainly from the North Asia, because those are the risks which is not really within our underwriting appetite. So since the team has taken over the underwriting in Singapore, we have gone a deep dive into the portfolio. Business like the underground mining, the prototype business, we actually came off a lot of that, or we reduced our share, right, just to maintain the relationship with the clients. So that alone is 4.5 million. So if you add back that 4.5 million, we actually have been doing a fantastic job. Also in a new business, especially like casualty and PEN, we are actually writing a lot of new business. 45% of our GWP, including all lines on fact, is new business, which is quite an achievement. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So aviation and marine, because we are riding on rate increase, leveraging the tightening up market. So I think we are cherry picking some of the best rates we can write, balancing the relationship. On the CNS, we've been actually trying to be very cautious in the faculty business because it's not an easy ride. But just in terms of activities, right? In terms of the new business submission, it's actually more than double. Last year we had like 130 first quarter, and this year we have close to 300. So it's a lot of new submission. In terms of the non-binding quote we are giving out, we're actually doubling up from 25 to 50. And last year, same period, we bound 7 cases only, and now this year is about 25. So you see a lot of activities is catching up. So I'm really confident, with all our hard work, with the business traction improving, we'll be able to deliver the better portfolio with a more healthier underlying risk. And just that, if you look at the second, the table at the bottom, since February this year, we have launched a new take-up procedures, meaning, once you get a slip, you put in the system. And that's thanks for all your hard work, especially to our underwriting ops colleagues. It's really working. So you have seen, in terms of the speed that we are getting up, getting a premium into the system is actually improving a lot. Looking at April alone, we have more than 120% already in the system from some last years. So again, thanks for all the underwriting ops colleagues. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. On the specialty treaties, again, sorry about a lot of numbers here. I just want to tell you the message that, the treaty side, we are also on track, both on the top line and the TCR perspective. The upper left table is what is reported in terms of the underwriting dashboard, the premium only, right? But the numbers are actually skewed by 2 main accounts. One is the MRE, produced by Simon, thank you, $25 million US. But we have only 7.5 million in the budget. So that skewed the budget. It seems we are way above the budget, right? And then we have about 11 million premium, which on the agricultural side, we are bound but not in the system. But it will be in the system by the month of this closing. So recognizing all this with all this adjustment, the table on the right tells you the pictures. So we are actually, well above our budget in terms of last year and in terms of the budget for this year's. And that's in terms of GWP only, of course. So the full year budget, we have reached about 87%, which is great. So we have another major renewal in July and September. So from a top line perspective, I'm not worrying about, on the treaty side, right? On the TCR, on the pricing side, if you look at the table at the bottom, which is just show you the April business, the pricing view, we are beating the budget and last year in terms of the top line, in terms of the TCR, in terms of the road rec. Okay, so great job, well done, and thank you to all the treaty colleagues here. Thank you. Any question before I move on? I've got only one slide left. Okay. So that's my second quarter priorities. As you know, we have a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of basic surgeries to our fundamentals. And for this, I really, really appreciate the help of everyone. Really appreciate that. So the fundamentals are the basics are like, we didn't have any business plan before. So these are very basic, right? So everyone got to have a business plan to produce the result, right? Top line and bottom line. So we are very busy finishing the business plan by the end of this month. Priority is more on the property engineering and energy and casualty, because on the second point, we need a business plan so that we can actually improve our retro program. Right now, our retro program is not fit for purpose for the new strategy. So we need more capacity. We need more broadened terms and conditions, both in terms of territorial scope and in terms of cover as well. So that's why we are really busy working on that with the help of everyone here. Our retro program is renewed in July and August. Technical pricing. So I'm sure many of you hearing me talking about a lot on this, right? So I'm a true believer of technical pricing, but not necessary to quote according to the technical pricing, because there's always market fluctuation. There's always account which deviate from the technical pricing, right? There's always reasons for a loading or credit adjustment. So I think that having that technical pricing right is very important. And thank you to the actuarial team, Acrth team, for supporting us. So I think we have launched the first phase of the property pricing tool, which is a quick fix with more fundamental changes required. The team is also helping us to have a better monitoring on the rate change, because we are now in I wouldn't call it a hardening market for fact in Asia, but at least the rates are stabilizing. So we need to get a better handle of this. And I've observed, some of our TCR, pricing TCR, may be a little bit too optimistic. That's my personal view, but we need to go deeper and see what are the driving factors, right? To see whether we should improve our technical pricing to be more robust, which is very important. So these, to me, are really fundamentals. And of course, we are, every day we're trying to streamline our process, like the take-up procedure is one of those. Especially on the P&C side, they are revising the underwriting guidelines and referral triggers, trying to streamline a lot of referrals and empower underwriters even more. So on the business development, actually I've covered it at the beginning of the updates. So we are going out to the market. So Paul Truman is helping us coordinate, put together a go-to-market strategy. So we have the vertical LOB business plan, but joining the dot together, how we go to the market in a consistent way as one team is very important. So we need a go-to-market strategy in terms of the broker's proposition, broker strategies, cedents as well. We are working very closely with our P&C treaty colleagues to identify key cedents from which we can develop more fact business. And also, by the middle of this year, we'll have a full energy team, looking at a team of 4. Rory made a head start. Welcome, Rory. Yeah, so we have 3 more to go by July or June. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.
I wasn't planning on speaking at this point because this is going to be a Mayuri's show, but a couple of observations before we move into the numbers. I know it's Monday morning. I know we started early, and it's a bit flat. But, okay, we've just shared some numbers with you, and maybe they were just numbers to you. But I think what these numbers tell you is that we are a long way towards building a much better, more resilient, and more profitable business. Okay? So if 12 months ago you were to ask us management team, what does success look like? This is what success looks like. So you should all be very proud of what you've achieved. Okay? So when we say FAC, underwriting, specialty, treaty, so on and so forth, it's not just these people who are underwriting every day. It's all of you who have contributed to this, whether you sit in Dubai, Hong Kong, Malaysia, our reps in Japan, so on and so forth. You've all contributed to this very, very positive change in the last 12 months. Okay? We've written more business, and it's not just about the top line. It's actually the underlying profitability, if it delivers to how we've priced it, will help us towards making an underwriting profit. So you need to feel proud, and you need to feel a sense of achievement about what we've just shared with you over the last half an hour. We've done it very, very quickly, but this is a very fundamental, very different set of numbers compared to what we've been producing over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Okay? So I really want you to congratulate yourselves for the first 3 months that you've achieved. So I want to hear a little bit more noise from you. Come on. And I also want to thank Ronnie and Soren in particular, who've really driven this over the last 3 months. Okay? It's not easy bringing new people on board. It's not easy building the framework and the structures and the discipline to get us to this point. It's not easy getting on a plane every week, leaving your families behind, visiting clients, opening doors, doing the business development, dragging colleagues along, rebranding ACR. It's not easy. This doesn't happen by luck. Okay? There's a hell of a lot of hard work that goes into this. And again, a lot of you have been contributing and have been part of this effort. So I wish you well for the rest of the year. We've still got a lot of hard work to go, but we've started really well in 19. Don't lose the momentum. Okay? So everyone keep pitching in and doing what you're doing. So thank you. Go on, Mira. All yours.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, Sergey is not around. He's on vacation. So I'm going to present the financial year 18 as well as Q1 2019 results in front of you. Everybody wants to see the numbers because what we are talking about, how we are changing our underwriting strategy, how underwriters are working on getting the numbers. But it's very important to see how it's coming out when we look at the financial numbers. So I'm starting with financial year 18. Bobby has talked about it. He has recently sent a note also explaining the two major components which is impacting the financial year 18 performance. So I'm going to cover those in more details in terms of numbers and in terms of ratio, how it's coming out in financial year 18. So let's start with the top line, which is, I would say, we are starting with a good note. We can clearly see that we are making 29 million more premium than what we have planned, and is also higher than last year by 25 million. So we are able to write or achieve more business in the market. And if you will look at the Q1 2019 results later on, you can see that this is growing in much faster pace now. So we can see the results coming out from efforts which our underwriting team is doing from the last few years. Now the next line is the underwriting result. Just for the non-technical people, this is the profit or loss we are making from the reinsurance operations. So what it includes? It includes the earned premium within the year, net of losses which we have made or recorded in that financial year, net of the commission paid to acquire the business, and the operating expenses. So in terms of operating expenses and acquisition cost, we managed to keep it same as what we have planned, and it's in par with the last year as well. So we are good there. But in terms of losses, you have heard from Bobby that 2018 was not very good year in terms of natural catastrophic events. We had many natural catastrophic events in the Asian market across the globe. So definitely it did have an impact on us as well. So just for example, the major event happened in Japan. The net impact in our books in financial year 18 itself was around 60 million from that single event. So what you are seeing here as a negative 57.7, that 60 million is in there. So in terms of, it's not like we were not reserved or we didn't plan for any cat events. So when we do the cat reserving or planning for natural catastrophic events, it's more for the longer term perspective. So like what we are going to achieve in the longer run or what we are going to record in losses in the longer run. So what we have budgeted is around 15% of the loss ratio coming from the catastrophic event, but we ended up as 21%. So that hits our book. So when we are talking about natural catastrophic event, I would say that these losses are obviously random and doesn't set the trends. So what happened this year will not come back in next year, we don't know. There is no certainty. So frequency and severity of these losses can change year on year. So what we have done for better understanding, if you see on the side, there is a one view called normalized view. So what is it all about? If let's say we say that all the catastrophic event year on year happen with the same frequency and severity, means our cat losses are stable, then we would have got the underwriting result of 27.4 million. It's a loss, but it's better than what we have by 30 million. Okay, so this is what it is. Financial year 18 was not a very good year for catastrophic, so we recorded a loss. On non-catastrophic side, we did have single large loss events like Lyos Dam, we have LG Chemicals, we have Alibaba, we have NetPet Fire. Most of these losses are within the range of 5 to 15 million, but we did have favorable development from the other lines. So all in all, on non-catastrophic side, we managed to be within the expected range of reserves. So no hit from that side. Now move to the investment income line, which is the major source of income in insurance or reinsurance market. You can clearly see we were not very lucky on that side as well. We lost 15 million. And there were two major factors which Bobby also explained in his email, that one is from the Federal Reserve in US. We didn't make it as per the plan.
Yes, just to be clear, we didn't lose money. Don's team did a great job of producing. Yeah, I can see Don's worried. Don't worry, Don. Okay, we didn't lose $15 million. What we didn't do was we didn't achieve the full plan. So we planned for a 4% investment return last year because the investment markets were very volatile. We made 3%, which is still a fantastic result because a lot of our peers actually lost money, really lost money from an investment side. So Don's team was able to generate $39.1 million of positive investment income. We were budgeting 54.2. So there was a shortfall, not a loss. There was a shortfall of $15 million versus what we thought we were going to achieve, okay? It's a very important distinction.
Yes.
Don and his team did not lose any money. They actually made more money. They made money, but not quite what we were expecting. That's all. Sorry, Mayuri, just to be very clear.
Thank you for correcting me. When I am doing this terminology, I'm comparing it to the budget. So in terms of budget, yes, you see that there's a deviation from the budget. We didn't manage to get the investment income which we had planned for. And as compared to last year also, it was not as fantastic as last financial year 17. But yes, thanks to Don team, we managed to make 3% even in the tough market. Now move to the last line, which is very important, which is coming out from the story we are telling from the last 1 hour, is the profit and loss from the business which we are doing. In absolute term, if you see, we have planned for 18 and we got 18. But the signs are different. So we lost from the sign. So it's on negative side. So now we are ended up with the 18 million loss. It's very important to talk about the numbers in terms of ratios because that's how we measure our performance. So you can see few ratios down. One is the gross combined ratio. What is in there is basically the total cost, including commission, operating expenses, and losses for the business which we have written. The second one is the net combined ratio, is basically what we are retaining after ceding out to the other reinsurance companies, and also the cost which we are paying to protect our book. So in terms of net COR, which is going to the underwriting result, we can see that we are at 112%, which is definitely not a number which we would like to achieve. So we have targeted for 107, but we ended up with 112, so 5% worse than what it should be. And the main reason for this is 2018 catastrophic events, I would say. In terms of annualized investment return, we planned for 4%, we managed to make 3%. Annualized return on equity is following the profit and loss line. We planned 2.3, but we ended up with negative 2.3. I hope, does anyone have any question? Otherwise, I will move to quarter one, yes? I was hoping somebody will pick this up. So in normal terms, if you see in the plan itself, we have planned gross COR of 100 and our net COR is 107. So what's the difference in there in the plan itself? Is the cost of protection we are buying. So we are paying premium for that, the excess of loss protection. So that cost us around 5 to 6% in a year, but that's known. But what happened in actuals is coming from our legacy reserves coming from subsidiaries. So as you know, the subsidiaries ACRM and ACRA, which is our Bahrain and Malaysian subsidiaries, they have legacy reserve. They were reserving at a very high loss ratio in the past. So after acquisition, actuarial team, they were reviewing, Kenneth was working hard with the Milliman to see why we are reserving at a higher loss ratio, or is it true? So after the detailed study, they have realized that all these reserves can be released. So to make our book more meaningful. So what they have done in financial year 18, they have released the reserves from Bahrain and Malaysian book, which definitely gave us profit in terms of gross combined ratio, because that's where the releases are. But these entities are ceding out the business to us. So most of their business come back to us. So what happened in consolidation, it's all eliminated. So when it comes to the net numbers, you don't see that benefit booked in our financial book. So that increase or widened the gap between gross and net COR in financial year 18. Hope I managed to explain.
Another point, Mayuri, which we should make clear. In the previous years, which is where a lot of the reserves releases were occurring, we did have quite a lot of quota shares with Berkshire. So when we're releasing these reserves, quite rightly, we have to give some of those reserves back to Berkshire. And that's why it affects the gross to net. Going forward, there'll be less of that impact, because clearly we've moved more to an excessive loss reinsurance program. But in the back years, every dollar that we reserve, or every dollar that we get back from the reserves, 50 cents of it goes to Berkshire or more, okay? Because that was a quota share arrangement that we had, and that's fair, and that's the way it should work, okay? So that's why it will show, the numbers will be a little bit skewed as well.
Any more questions?
About 2018. I much prefer 2019, because I'm more of a good news optimist kind of guy. But it is what it is. We had a tough year. We weren't the only ones. If you look across the industry, everyone had terrible numbers for 2019. Okay? We didn't really write international or US business in 2018. Okay? The US also got smashed in 2018. Okay? You had hurricanes, Florence and Michael. You also had Californian wildfires. So if you had US exposures in there, you know, as a lot of our peers did, you'll see the numbers were terrible. So I don't know if you speak to any of your colleagues, to any of your peers, if you have friends who work for some of the other reinsurance companies with more global portfolios, but the numbers aren't great there either, okay? Doesn't mean that we should feel good about it, but at least it kind of tells you that we didn't do something that was an outlier, or our results are so spectacularly bad compared to everyone else. No. It was a pretty tough cat year last year. Last year was the 4th highest cat year since records began. So pretty meaningful, okay? Just to put that in some sort of context.
Okay, let's talk about the first quarter 2019. So you can see from the top line itself, so far in the last 3 months, we managed to write more business as we have expected. It is higher than plan number by 22 million, which is a great achievement. Soren has talked about the January renewals. Ronnie has talked about the strategical changes and the rebooting they are doing in the facultative and specialty lines. And we can clearly see the results of this in our top line. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be much higher when the April renewals are booked in. April renewals are not in there because this is until March, okay? So in top line, in terms of top line, we have managed to achieve what we have planned. Is better than last year as well. If you look at the year-to-date March 2018, it was 251, and currently we are at 273 million. In terms of underwriting results, we are as per the plan numbers. So the business which we have managed to write or achieve is within the budgeted TCR or the price TCR. So nothing in there, though there are 2 events happen in this quarter, and both of them are from the aviation line. We had 2 crashes. You all know that we have Ethiopian airline crash and the Lion Air crash. But the net impact from these events to our book is all covered. So one event, the net impact is around 1.5 million only. So we are all good in terms of underwriting results. Investment income, thanks to the Dawn team again, we are making more money as what we have expected. Our investment return is running at 5% as compared to what we have expected as 4%. Overall profit and loss, we are higher by 4 million, all from the investment. So in terms of ratio, if you look at the net combined ratio, which is important for the insurance business, we are aligned with the budget. And it's lower than the last year, which is a good news already. That's it from my side. Any questions?
Thing, Mayuri, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but there is one difference which you need to be aware of here when we talk about gross combined ratio and not combined ratio. If you remember, we talked about the cat allowance earlier on when we were explaining 2018. Okay? So within that gross combined ratio and that net combined ratio, there is a cat allowance in there, which we haven't taken out. Okay? So the cat allowance is to cover any catastrophic events which occur in the first, we're talking about March here, in the first 3 months of the year. Okay? So, touch wood, I can't think of anything that's happened in the first 3 months of the year from a cat perspective.
No.
We haven't been notified of anything, but there may be something. Okay, there may be some noise there. So there is a possibility, therefore, that we're over-reserved, if you want, for want of a better word, from a cat perspective. So those numbers should go down when we have the next reserving meeting, and we take down that cat allowance. So that 105 should come down. That 104, therefore, will also come down and will be more in line with the budget, because you might quite rightly say, hang on, we're 105 right now versus a budget of 99. That's because, okay, the 105 has a full cat allowance for the first 3 months of this year. Okay? We know for a fact that there hasn't been much cat activity, so we may release half of the reserve, or depending on what the reserving committee want to do, so that number will be more in line with the budget. So we're not a million miles away. So I think what we're saying to you is, okay, very good start for the first 3 months of the year, and the numbers demonstrate that. I don't like to talk too much about top line, but I think the fact that the business is gaining traction, all these new underwriters that we're bringing in, the strategy that we've been working on, the leadership changes that we've made, it's all good signs. Okay? The underwriting results are, again, in the right trajectory. Dom's team is having a fantastic first quarter this year. Some of those, you know, they're over and above the investment return that we'd predicted for the first quarter. So thank you very much again, guys. So everything is moving in the right direction. It still is only March, though. Okay? We had a great start last year, first 3 months. We had a great start half of the year, and then the wind started blowing and the earth started shaking a bit towards the end of the year. So fingers crossed it won't happen again this year. Okay? But again, very good start. I just wanted to conclude on that. Thanks, Mayuri.
Thank you, Bobby. Any questions on Q1 results? Thank you.
The second half, we've got a variety of things which we're going to share with you. I think the first one, which is a very important part of the transformation piece, is an update on on Maserati, amongst other things, but just on generally the operational transformation piece. And Minying, where are you? And Minying's going to run us through that. So come on up, Minying. Have you got a mic, or you're going to do the karaoke thing?
Oh,
karaoke. All right.
Yeah. My time again. Since the last town hall, we have actually progressed a lot as a project team itself. So I just take about 2-3 minutes to run through what we have done. Okay. If you remember, the last town hall we talked about refit. For the newcomer, there are actually 2 portions to actually project Maserati. One is actually the refit, which is meant on a really short stint, 4 to 6 months project, where we talk about a remodel. It's a longer period that lasts for about a year and a half, or 2 years type of project. Basically, what is Maserati? The project is really to identify the target operating model that's a fit for purpose for ACR. Right. So refit initiative, we have 3. We mentioned, we talk about Chrome River. Now, Chrome River, we have launched, yeah, and a lot of people will have already experienced that. We're currently gathering feedback and then trying to improve it along the way as we launch the particular module. And we actually have a sub-segment under that, which is invoice. That will come shortly. Retro admin, we mentioned before, we already have a soft launch. Now it's actually, we have already 2 cycles. This particular initiative, we use robotic. Yeah, so basically we use the robots to actually help us to actually churn out a technical statement of account to our business partner. This particular one, we have given the robot a name finally, we call it Acrth. Yeah. But because we want a male specifically, yeah, so we call it Acrth. Yeah. Sadly, the last one, which is on JDocs, well, a little bit of delay there, yeah, due to some complexity, and more importantly, because during first quarter, as you know, finance is actually very busy with the initiative, so we are not actually able to actually launch this with proper testing. Now, remodel. This is really the biggest chunk of item that actually happened over December all the way till now. So what we have achieved during this period. Now, from end November to January or end January or early February, what the team are really busy with is really coming out with what we call the blueprint document. Now, the blueprint document involve and contain all the business requirement document, which means they're coming from claims, coming from underwriting, coming from the underwriting ops, the technical account, retro, and so on and so forth. So this is all the full-blown, include our wish list, okay, or what we think that is fit for purpose for ACR. Now, apart from that, so we have managed to complete all this is end January, thanks to the project team. Okay, they put a lot of hard work because none of the project team member is really, especially from the business, is really 100% or truly 100% to the project. So really thanks to them for putting this through. The next one is really December to February 19, where we talk about target operating model. Now, having business requirement document from all the function is not good enough because it's really functional. What we really need to come up with something that can link all the activities together, really simplified straight line process, fast free, you know, for all our internal and external stakeholder. Really one-stop service. So this is what we call the target operating model. We actually finalize that, we present it, okay, and then we get it approved in end Feb. Now, yes, so this on the end February, and this basically our target for the board is also end February, we get it approved. So we are on target so far for the project. Now, the last one is on the target life. This is the most common topic that people will ask me. So when will we have, or when can we see the life of the new system? Really, it is not end of the year, it's not first quarter next year, it's going to be July, yeah? So this is our target and we'll work towards that. The last slide I have here for you is just to show you the IT architecture model, which actually, what I'm trying to show here is actually what you will ultimately see as an end user will be a very simplified system. But really a lot of work, as you can see, goes into it. The data flow is complex, okay, it involves a lot of thinking, a lot of process, and I would really like to use this opportunity to thank all the team members. Yeah, they have actually contributed, yeah, with Lion sitting there, waving her hands, yeah, they contributed a lot to make this happen, or will make this happen by July 2020. That's all I have for today. Very quick one. Yep.
Sorry. Wednesday of last week, unfortunately, John's mother passed away, and he's in Ireland for the funeral over the weekend. He'll be back here next week, later on this week. So I'm sure you'll want to send your condolences to him and his family. But we have Red, who's going to be presenting the RPA piece for us, who I'm sure will do a fine job in John's absence. So over to you, Red.
Thank you, Bobby. Good morning, everyone. Noted, thank you. Good morning. So maybe just a quick show of hands first of all. Can anyone tell me if they know about RPA? Put your hands up if you've heard of RPA or seen it in action before. Okay, so a few hands, that's good. So RPA, basically what is RPA? Robotic Process Automation, or RPA for short, is the use of, thank you, Carol, is the use of software with AI machine learning capabilities to handle high volume, repeatable tasks such as data entry, processing. So basically what we've used this for is payments, first of all. There we go, that helps. So we've used this to automate the booking of our claims payments and also to help out with filing in XCCM. So in terms of the reasons why we've used this, it speeds up payments, increases accuracy and efficiency as well. And it's perfectly suited to these tasks. So in terms of the background of RPA and how it was all developed, thank you very much to Dave Duran, Jason, his team, Oylen, and the whole claims team as well for their assistance with integrating this and troubleshooting it, testing it, and their patience as well. So thank you very much. So it took roughly 4 to 5 months between July to December last year to develop, to pilot this and test everything before going live. And basically, there's still some personal input from the claims team and all the handlers as well. It's not fully automated. Obviously, nothing in life is ever perfect. We still have to put the data into templates, to verify the data, to feed this into RPA before it will actually process the transactions and then give us back the results, which are then checked, are then reauthorized and released. So there's definitely still a human element there. I think one thing we should be very, very proud of as well is that we're actually one of the first reinsurers in Singapore to make use of RPA. I believe Swiss Re and Allianz have also used this successfully already. But in terms of the market here, this is a big innovation. So again, thank you to everyone for your hard work and your help and your patience. So 2 graphs here. If we look, first of all, at the top graph there, this is on the left-hand side, the percentage of bookings. On the bottom of the graph, this is the release month, which is tracking the trends month by month. So the blue line, first of all, on the top, if you look at that one, you can see that obviously 100% of transactions back in December last year, or November to December last year, were manually input by handlers, which has slowly changed, and as that's dropped to roughly around 55% now, as of this month, and RPA utilization has increased from roughly 12% in 12% in December last year, through to almost 45% of all bookings made, which is absolutely huge. So now if we look at the bottom graph there, this shows FAC payments and FAC bookings. So this one again, if we double check, if we look at the blue line and the green line, you can see that as the amount of payments that are manually input on the blue line decreases, you can see that RPA has effectively processed, or is now effectively processing, almost 90% of all FAC bookings, which again is a very, very big development. Okay. So what does this mean? In terms of the effectiveness and how it was developed again, this was a big project between the claims team, IT team. It's all been internal. It's been driven by John Kenny, the IT team, and they've done a fantastic job. So I think we should be very, very proud of our success, and that we've managed to implement this successfully, on time, and with high accuracy as well. So it's been a very, very successful, very good job. So thank you again, everyone. It's not only been a sort of individual project, it's required support from everyone. So as I mentioned earlier, it's taken each claim handler to double check this, to spot any errors, to feedback as well. So there's been developments throughout this project, so which have been fed back to Dave. So Dave's then re-scripted and obviously changed things in the code for RPA. And in terms of the effectiveness and the end result to not only our claims team internally, but also to outside stakeholders, to clients as well, it's clear this is a very, very good system. You've seen from the results there as well. So it's helped us speed up payment turnaround times, improve service. We've already had some fantastic feedback from Nick McFarlane as well. We mentioned earlier that obviously our promise to pay claims is essentially what clients look for and clients value, and this has helped us to do that. So it's been very, very successful overall. We do have a video next on the next slide.
So just before you go to the video, I think this is a fantastic example of when people collaborate together. The claims team, the IT team, specifically, but also all of you who've helped as part of this. But I think there are a couple of things that we can draw from this. We talked a little bit earlier on about financial results. We talked a little bit about the contribution that all of you are making. This is a clear example, again, where it's not underwriting that's making the contribution, but it's the claims team working with the IT team have found a much more efficient way of booking, particularly when we look at the fact numbers, at processing those using RPAs, which means people don't have to do it. So if you think of our business as we expand, as we look to write more business, quite rightly, we're going to have more claims. So there are two ways that we can handle this. We can throw more people at the problem. Okay, that means we employ more people. Employing more people means more cost. Okay? So here we found a fantastic way of keeping those costs or reducing those costs, yet being able to take on more work. Okay? And secondly, let's be honest, booking claims, booking those fact payments is not a really exciting part of what it is that we do. The exciting bit is when you're looking at a claim, adjusting a claim, talking to the broker, talking to the client. That's where you really genuinely add value as claims people, but also to the organization. So by taking all of that away from you, it means that from a claims perspective, you get to actually look at more meaningful and more higher value stuff. And this is again where, you know, from a claims perspective, you're able to contribute more, and thanks to the IT team, we're able to deliver better solutions to you. Okay, so this is a clear example of something which is so positive about our business, and which, again, you know, led by John, claims team have been working very hard on it, IT team have been working extremely hard, finance team, so on and so forth. I think that's a fantastic, you know, there's very little, there are so many little ways of innovating in our business, but I think this is a clear way where ACR has been able to innovate, and mostly done in-house. So I think that's a fantastic achievement. So again, well done to all of you. Thank you. Do you want to just run the video? You want to do that?
That might help. So let's hear from the claims team.
The RPA has really helped the claims department to cut down on the various administrative work, which in turn give us more time to analyze more complex claims. Previously, we had to print out the W note, sign, scan, and file it away. We also had to drag the email into SCCM after we have approved the payment. The RPA has really helped us to do all the administrative tasks without any issue. Thank you.
RPA also able to rename the email and W note in a structured naming conventions. It will help us to maintain a proper filing and facilitate an easy retrieval. RPA is also able to book in the payment with a multiple currency. It will free up our time for the booking of multiple entry within a single claims number, which is enable us to focus more on the claim handling.
This RPA project is really a collaboration project between the claims department and IT. We have automated some of the manual processes to improve the productivity of every claims employee. This is a continuous improvement project that allows us to interact, innovate, enhance, and improve the quality of business operations in ACR.
So just to summarize, thank you to everyone again for your involvement, collaboration, teamwork. It's obviously been very, very successful. We're now actually looking to roll this out to ACRM as well, potentially, and other uses within the business. So it's been very, very successful and very positive. I think we should all be proud of our achievement, and the future's bright. Thank you.
Thanks, Red. This is a great example of where technology doesn't replace people, but complements people. And I think particularly as we work through Maserati, you should see far more examples of where technology is complementing what we do as a business. Okay, it's a little bit Terminator: Rise of the Machines, but I'm sure they won't take over the world. The next slot that we've got is Jason, who's going to very quickly run us through Office 365, some of the benefits, some of the new functionality that's going to be available to you. I'm particularly excited about the ability to call people and actually see them face to face. I think that's the bit that I'm excited about, but I'll leave it to you.
All right.
Go on, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So we have Jacob and then Angela. So I'm sure they are matched. So all these are running on the robotic that we actually, over the last 3 to 6 months, we were actually doing an explorations. So basically talking to Mingyin, talking to claims, understanding the business process, and innovate and come up with tools and also the processes to improve our process. So today I'm tasked to look at and also explain to you what is Office 365. So I like the words Office 365 because the systems run 365. Same as the IT. In IT, we run the system 365 days, never stops. So our email system will never stop. We make sure it's running. We have hiccups. We make sure that it's all running as smoothly as possible. So basically, what is 365? It's a collaboration tools, good tools for interact with each other. The Office 365 has a series of applications, as you can see. You have the OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, YAML, and so on. Right? But today, I'm just going to show you examples of what is the Teams that allows you to collaborate. Right? So it actually stores documents, and also it can be an extreme communication tools. Previously, the Teams is actually called a Skype. So Skype for Business is replaced by Teams. So in the Office 365, there are a lot of applications. For example, the mail, the Words, the Excel, the PowerPoint. Now you don't rely on the application that's run on your laptop. The application like PowerPoint, you can run it, you can save it online in the Microsoft Azure systems. So it's actually all the software that you're familiar with. Also, especially, you will make sure that it's actually be productive anywhere. You can use it anywhere, on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, or your PC. It's going to be a series of implementations. It will start off, the remodel project, the Maserati project, already been using Office 365 for the last 3 months. So a lot of meetings with vendors, a lot of meetings with the teams is conducted through the Office 365. And for the next month, May, June, July, we're going to install and roll it out to all the offices. All right? So one of the tools that I want to talk on, Microsoft Teams. Just I mentioned, it's Teams for conferencing, video conferencing, and access a range of live broadcasts. You can do a chat, you can share documents, you can share the screens or the PowerPoint. So it's a multi-participants anywhere, anytime. Previously it's called Skype. And it allows us to do collaboration, just I mentioned, and finally, chat. So you can reduce the amount of emails if you just want to say, hey, can you look at the documents I sent you, just through the Teams. In fact, today, we have a live Teams actually running behind. So the laptops that Wilson is running, we are actually connected to Hong Kong, Korea, and Malaysia. So we can also use the iPhone to connect to each other. So the live chats now. We actually turn it on since 9 o'clock this morning when you step in, and then you actually can. So who want to see more details, you can go behind later. Right? So that's all I have today. is examples of, we can actually call up to 10 parties. We have tried it, and it's quite smooth. All right, that's all I have.
Thanks very much, Jason.
All right.
And again, a couple of things. You will recall the short nagging session at the start about cybersecurity. And I said, if in doubt, call, speak, don't just rely on email. This gives you the perfect opportunity, the ability to do precisely that. Okay, so no excuses. Please don't just send out emails. Please don't just send out attachments. Just engage your brain a little bit. And if you're unsure, you've got so many tools that you can make use of, even when you're traveling on the road, where you can just speak to someone, check in with someone before we send out anything. Okay? It's also a great collaborative tool if you need to have conversations, discussions, that you can now see each other face to face when you're doing that. So please make use of it. I know as EXCO we're making a significant amount of use of 365, sharing files, so on and so forth, in a secure environment. Technology works. The IT guys have done a great job in terms of implementing this for us. So please make full use of the functionality of it. Okay? We've now got Wailun and also Waylin, who are going to sort of take over for the next, however long, half an hour, 45 minutes, and give us a sense of ERM risk culture and also the Ministry of Fun.
Sort of, there's a preview. Morning, everyone. I think there's a common theme running through most of the presentation this morning. Is anybody able to put all together? Maybe not yet, right? I think the common word has been refit, remodel, later on will be revamp, right? It's quite appropriate for a company. We are a reinsurance company, which is good. Now we'll talk about ERM, right? So how many people are aware what is, how big the ERM team is? Go ahead. How big is the ERM team? All right, so we have a big team of 2. Yes, I think Melissa got it spot on, right? Again, ERM, the last few years, under my predecessor, has been all about OSA report, right? OSA report is a report we filed with MAS. It's all about OSA report. So we want to change a bit now, right? ERM is a lot more. As what Melissa mentioned, it's all about managing the risks. It's not just the 2. We can't manage the risk in the whole company, right? Especially with underwriting that we are going global and the rest of them. Let's quickly go into ERM. Looks quite fancy. Thank you for Carol for adding a bit more creativity to the slide. This is what we looked at. Not quite the energy underwriting we're looking at, but sort of. We analyzed and sort of measured the risks. And hopefully this is not what we are doing, let it blow up, all right? So this is not risk management. This is at least we are looking at risk overall. Again, quite long. At the end of the day, it's, you can read all of those. You'll be posted on intranet anyway. Again, it's about having design. We're underwriting a lot of risks. We are taking over the risk. How are we managing it? As a company, we need to make sure put it together. We have to pull all the risks, understand what it is, and then we design a retro program to make sure the bad stuff that happens will not affect the company severely. All right, so again, I will not read all those. Again, then we have all these kind of risks. What we have as well, we have sort of the ERM. In the old days, if you're old enough, you know that all this time, anything happens is all about compliance. Now it's a bigger umbrella called ERM. If anything screw up, it's all about ERM. So it can't be just 2 of us going to shoulder all the blame. So it covers all the risks in the company. And quickly, we move on. A bit more about risk governance to help the company understand how, as a company, we're managing the risks. You guys know about EXCO. You guys know about reserving committee. You guys heard about management investment committee. It's a bit more low profile, management investment committee. Who's aware of management investment committee? Not many, right? So, because Don is doing so well, I think the committee doesn't do a whole lot. And then sort of there's a newly formed management risk committee. The reason I'm putting out there, you must remember the 3 keyword MRC. We'll talk about it a lot. We have a lot of abbreviation in the company, right? XECM, RPA. So the next new word is MRC. It's Management Risk Committee, a bit different from a board risk committee. This is why we're going to manage those area of responsibility. The reason why we have reformed this committee because In the past, we had one chief underwriting officer, Hayo. Now we have two. Right? We don't want a fact and specialist to be running on one side and 3D one side. We need to make sure that both are aligned when we buy our retro. We understand our accumulation. We understand all our risk control. Then it's a bit more effective. Right? Especially now we're going global, everybody with energy team, it's a lot of things to do. We will have our first MRC meeting in this afternoon. Right? So we'll probably give more updates later on how effective this committee has been. Okay, now that we have sort of the structure in place, how do we make ERM effective? I think the main thing is positive risk culture. Right? We talk about it's not just having sort of the hardware, it's also the software is important, especially in our industry. It's all about behavior. Right? So risk culture is a shared philosophy of managing uncertainty, which is there are many definitions out there. This one is quite appropriate for us. We have to manage a lot of uncertainty within our book. Yeah, shouldn't say it wasn't me, right? So, okay, before we go there, we have a few, risk culture has been been emphasized a lot in the news everywhere by regulators because we have a lot of examples of bad risk culture, right? Once, I think it's well known, is Wells Fargo, right? Making up accounts, charging people, making sure they're buying insurance that they don't need, they already have insurance, all these things. It created too many millions of dummy bank accounts. Those who questioned with silence, who complied, they were fined US $1.7 billion. So there are many more examples. I have one more example here, which is sort of linked to us, but this was way back to, a lot of people may not be in industry then. Independent was very clear, where they were worth up to $1 billion, right, but they collapsed. There were a lot of, maybe with RPA, we would not be able to hide all these claims, unlike what happened with Independent. Again, they have what they call optimistic accounting. I'm not sure what that means. Maybe finance will explain. And then we also have carrier management and CEO. Hopefully it doesn't apply to us. And senior directors. Oh, I'm sorry.
Doing very well so far, Wai Loon.
Until that part. But again, the serious part, there was 1,000 job losses and over 500 million policy was without cover. So risk culture, it is important. I think there are other examples, what we hear about Royal Commission in Australia, about what they have done. So there's many, many more. Enron is a separate beast, but it's all along the same line about risk culture. All right, so now, how do we align with what Wei Lin has done on corporate culture and the risk culture? It's going to be a bit difficult for me to build on risk culture before we had a corporate culture reboot or rebrand in the past. So the timing is sort of perfect. So we need to link the two, right? We need to, risk culture needs to be supportive of the objective of the company. So these are the key. There are many more elements about what is a good risk culture. The main one is torn from the top. Clearly, I have a message from our board risk committee, Neil Matheson, who clearly supports this. This risk culture is not just EXCO, it's all the way from the board. So that we have support that we need to have the right risk culture. The other point is coming from the regulators. MAS did a risk culture audit on us last year. We found out that this is the team. It's not just about the risk culture, just about the company. It's also the risk culture. What kind of culture are we setting? Are we rewarding people for inappropriate, right? Just grow the business top line without looking for the bottom line. So those are the things we are looking at. The other part about transparent information, that we need to be aware of what we have written, understand the book. As well, we would have channel for risk reporting, where I think we have a few good examples in the past, where I think we have some near misses. Teams like TUO, Lang's team has been quite helpful to identify that we shouldn't be writing a certain direct risk in a certain market. At least it was caught up front from that side. In the past, Susanna has also brought up some items about why are we still sitting to Berkshire for when the Berkshire quota share expired in 2016, when this risk was sort of, we wrote this annually in 2018. So these are sort of culture we have that every department have a role to play to sort of manage the risk from underwriting everything else. Again, clearly with all the changes, we need to be clear who's doing what and responding for the risk area. Let's see. Again, these are underpinned by ACR core values. Again, if I introduced it last year, it was going to be it's going to be very difficult actually. So, any questions so far? Okay, let's move on. Yeah, life is about managing, not taking risk, especially for a reinsurance company. That's what we need to do. Again, risk taking, we all understand all about it. Again, risk management, as I mentioned before, is about how we manage our risk as a company. All right, again, MRC will help. Again, for all those in underwriting, if there's anything else and you're not sure, when you're writing certain risks, I think we can talk to the MRC. That's why I think we have more meetings to discuss all the underwriting new initiatives. What else is there? Again, sort of a reflection on the risk side. What happened with a data breach event? What it tells us that other than underwriting, there are also risks somewhere elsewhere in the company. And clearly, we don't pay attention too much. What has happened is that it may not cost us any money, but behind the scene, I think we have countless hours of a compliance team, finance team, communication working behind just to address the people affected, the regulators, the shareholders a lot. So it's not just on the underwriting side. Everywhere else on the claims, underwriting, everywhere everybody has, there is some risk areas as well. So we can also have near misses. I think I'll share more on our sort of previous, our lunch, learn and share program on lunch, where a bit more on near misses. Near misses is things that could have happened that caused us to have a breach, but it didn't happen. But this is where we want to sort of list down all the near misses that other people understand that hopefully it doesn't happen to them. Okay, what else? Yeah. What we want linked to our core values is open and honest conversation. Again, that's the part where, again, highly emphasize, if we see something among our colleagues who are not sure why we're writing in some countries or wherever else, like in Russia, we need to have to challenge them. Why are we writing in a certain country? Why are we writing in a certain line of business? Do we have protection? So it's okay to ask to challenge your colleagues, right? This is a culture we want to encourage our team, but do it respectfully, right? That's the key word that we need to have. Again, if you're not sure, you notify a colleague or superior or check with your colleagues. So the worst case, as you talk to your manager. If not, you talk to uni or come to me. My room is mostly open. It's on the way to the pantry anyway. So it's, again, at the end of the day, worst come to worst, we do have this anonymous whistleblowing, right? This is the one where we do not encourage, I mean, not to say discourage company, that we have this avenue for employees. If some things are really, really broken and you need to, there is a channel for anonymous whistleblowing as well. But I'm hoping that we have more discussion openly. We have any issue, we have a chat, have meetings to discuss whatever we need, that hopefully we don't have to use that avenue, that channel. What else is there? Sort of, this is sort of the plan. Unfortunately, OSA will still be there. Risk assessment, we're going to undertake quite a few months. The new part, there will be a pre-risk culture pulse survey, mostly with underwriting, just for you to understand what does it mean in terms of risk in the company. Have sort of what I would call a common language. When we talk about PML, whatever else, everything people understand, because a lot of people come from different companies, have different meaning when we mention certain things. So that's, we're going to have a pre-risk culture pulse survey with a lot of underwriters, sort of mid-level, to see, do you guys understand what is our risk appetite? Have we been communicated those well enough to you? So then, again, we have our ERM Learn and Share. So it's a lunch, I think 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Uni and I will conduct it a bit more insight to some of our ERM and other risk culture part. What else? Then we have a post-risk culture. Again, this is sort of a call out for OSA. Again, it's more about understanding all the processes that we have, especially now that we're growing. We need to focus a bit more when we go writing new lines like cyber. What are we doing? How are we managing the risks? Especially also as well as we're going to international, writing international CAT. How are we managing that risk? Is that accumulation between marine and property? And just to get at that, the OSA sort of will flesh out some of the process that we need to put in place. What else is there? Yeah, the takeaway. It's a cliche. Risk manage everyone's business. It must be the cultural organization, right? So it's not quite a CAT event that we looked at, but at least if the CAT can do it. What else? Okay, I think that's it from my side. Any questions so far? No. Waylin?
Thanks, Wai Lun. I'm actually very heartened to hear how the town hall content has been about this, in this event. It's really a holistic one, and it's really about not just business, but also about our culture in terms of risk, our governance. It's also about operations. It's also about embracing technology and seeing where we can use technology to help our business. And it's a lot about collaboration between all the different teams. So I think I'm really heartened, similar to Bobby, that about on the progress that we've made thus far. The corporate is really all about the business at the end of the day. We exist to support the business, and that is our priority. How do we continue to support the business? We are working very closely with ERM to look at the risk culture. Our legal and our compliance team, for example, will be working very closely with IA, ERM to identify what are some of the key priorities, key priority gap areas that we should look at in terms of governance, in terms of risk culture. Wai Lun did skip a slide, maybe in terms of the ethics helpline. Sorry, I'm not very good with the pointer. I think as much as we want to just talk about it, and I agree that we should talk about it, have open and honest conversations with each other about some areas that we may be missing. But this is an internal speak up and speak out program. If you do find that there are some issues, there are two channels that you can go to. One is compliance and the other is contacting our audit chairman. Yeah. So it's not about avoiding this at all. It is actually also saying we want to hear from you if there are areas that we've missed out on. We may not have eyes everywhere, and that's why it's really everyone's responsibility when it comes to risk culture. Okay, so my section is really a bit about, as well, what are some of the other corporate updates. In 2018, we embarked on the culture journey. 2019 and beyond is really about continuing to embed this culture. Recap of our culture survey. I must say I was actually really pleasantly surprised. These are actually really good numbers. Of course, the key thing is there are still improvement areas that we can make in terms of whether the core values are fully lived out in ACR. We remember that we were 63%. Does anybody remember the three numbers that Bobby shared in the last December town hall? He ended off with three numbers. Hatul, do you remember? Oh, no. Okay, I recapped myself before coming, so not like I have a fantastic memory, but it was 540, it was 89%, and 85%. 540 million being our GWP in terms of our budget for 2019. 89% being the TCR that we hope to achieve in 2019. And 85% is what we hope to achieve in terms of core values being fully lived out in ACR. Personally, I think that is actually quite a stretch target, but that's what the boss said. And I think, again, culture, just like risk culture, is very much every one of us. What we aim to do is to put in place some initiatives, activities that you can come together so that we can continue to work on building this together. Key part of it is really a continuous conversation, a two-way feedback, engagement with all of you. We will be conducting some focus groups, give you a bit of deeper insight into the culture survey. We also want to hear from you, discuss and get feedback on what are some of the initiatives that we can do to continue to embed this culture. We will continue to do pulse surveys so that we can hear from you, track our progress in terms of the culture transformation. Of course, it will be very much about putting in place initiatives that are actually from all our corporate functions, whether it be new hires onboarding program, revamped website and intranet, the ACR office theme, a new fun club, learning and development. For example, our Learn and Share programs, which we officially launched last year, has received very good feedback. The main thing was actually to get all of you to get together, interact with each other, and at the same time learn. And it could not have been done without our internal trainers. The 101 series have actually been very well received. And of course, on top of that, we will also do knowledge sharing series. I think this year we can look forward to actuarial sharing a bit about autonomous vehicles and the impact to our industry, claims as well. As Bobby mentioned, it's a key proposition of the reinsurance business for us. So a deeper insight as to how claims and how it is a critical function of our organization. As I mentioned, we really could not have done this without the internal trainers who, on top of what they had to do, and you have seen, aside from the business as usual, they have projects to do, they have also committed their time to actually do up the curriculum, come by and share a little bit more about each of their functions. So big shout out to all of them. If you can join me and give them a round of applause. Of course, in 2019, we also have new trainers, and existing 2018 trainers will continue to do so. Again, I appeal to you, if you think there's an area that you want to share with the whole organization, please just let us know, and we can actually put you in and slot you into the calendar as well. Learning and development is not just about the learn and share sessions. It's really also about working with the divisions to look at what may be training needs for your functions. So in 2019, we've identified some key areas with the different functions, as well as leadership development. So 2019, we'll actually be working on some manager development courses. We'll also be looking into coaching as well as mentoring. I talked about new hires and the onboarding program. We've gone through a review and we've introduced some new things. But the key thing is really to have checkpoints for our new hires. And again, I welcome feedback, especially since we have a lot of newcomers in the last few months. If there are areas that we should be looking into, please let us know. Some key things that we'll be looking into or we'll be putting in place is actually a leadership meet and share. So at some point in the maybe 3 to 6 months, you will actually meet up with the leadership team, be it CEO or one of the EXCO members. We made sure that you also have functional check-in points, and hopefully really about the day one, you feel immediately welcomed and you have all the tools and resources that you need to go about starting what you need to do. On top of that, we will actually also be looking at improvement of our communication and engagement, not just internally, but also externally, so branding. We will be revamping our website. This should be ready in Q2. We're also working with quite a number of people on the intranet. Revamping our intranet should be ready in Q3. The key things is really engagement. Engagement with the audience that these two the website and intranet are reaching out to. Bobby talked a little bit about this. Of course, you also know a big mess at the moment on the 8th floor, but really it is about ACR office team, and this should be ready by 6th of May. So admin is working tirelessly in the background over weekends as well to ensure that this is completed as soon as we can. They don't want me to share with you the office design, so they want you to be surprised. So you should be pleasantly surprised in May. Beyond that, admin is also working on how can we continue to go green. I know some of you were, or the latest is really the taking away of the plastic bags from our dustbins. Well, but at the end of the day, I think we use about 1,200 plastic bags a day for a month, a year. Sorry, a year, yeah, on this. And I think it is not just a one-off, it is really a holistic view of the organization and how we can continue to go green. Again, I welcome feedback. All these initiatives we want to work on, but you can also really contribute by giving us some feedback into some areas that we can look into. So it's really about engaging you to build a sustainable ACR. Out with Fun Club and in with Ministry of Fun. So yes, this is my time to pass it off to the new Minister of Fun, who has volunteered his services.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this volunteer. I think the EXCO member set me up still. I thought I got rid of this slide.
he wanted to get rid of this slide, but
Yeah.
he didn't.
Okay, let's see. Does it work? Yeah, some sort of Mexican wave. Okay, it doesn't really happen. At least I try. You guys have seen the football table. Who has been to the 8th floor? Obviously, we have the pool table. Right, still being a loaner from Simon, I think. We have the electronic dartboard, not so traditional. And this one is not quite yet. We're going to go outside and play. So why are you guys sitting in a different group, right? So what we have done is, as part of a collaboration thing, I think the comment came from is, I think there's not enough interaction between the 37th floor and 8th floor people. So look, why don't we split the company into 4 teams? That's why we are seated here, right? And then we also nominated what they call the other ministers of fun. They are not getting paid extra for this, unlike the real ministers. We have, can we stand up, Fong? All the ministers of fun, Desmond? Yeah, all of you please stand up. You are sort of a representative for your team. Yeah, these people will be very important for the next, until November 1st, right? These sort of your team leaders for there. Even EXCO has been split out. We've all been assigned. That is quite random. Unfortunately, with this splitting of the team, especially for bowling event, some people are concerned about the dream team of bowling keep winning. The dream team will be separated already this year. All right, so we will not have a three-peat of a team championship, so unfortunately, but we all for collaboration. So what happens now is, after the town hall, you guys are sitting in the way with the sort of the leaders that you have. You need to come up with a name for your team, right? And then we also later on, as part of that's the main task, right? If you don't come up with the name for the team, you are not allowed to go for lunch. Oh. Right. Again, so we will have quite a few events lined up. 7 has been confirmed. The idea was we want people, as you can see from Dave, right, we have a lot of talent in the company, right? The video editing, the sound was pretty hip. The final event, which is on November 1st after SRC with our team in Hong Kong, is what we call the ACR Showtime, right? You, a part of a team, will have a thing. I'm not sure, you can do whatever you want. Make sure that it's not X-rated, R-rated, whatever else, not really sensitive. You can also, you want to do a Korean drama, you have 10 minutes, you can do it. It's a very short Korean drama. But the annual dinner Showtime will be sort of 30% of the overall points. Right, I still have to work out all the points part. We have all this event, the futsal, it all depends, right? What the members need to do is, how many people are interested in all these events? We need to figure out how many matches we need to have. We want as many. And winning is important, but I think we will award participation points. If your team doesn't have anybody to play futsal or football, it doesn't matter. Just send the team over, you will still have, right? It's not about winning most of the time, all right? So what we're going to have, number 8 is sort of in support of our ACR running club. We will encourage more people to join. Somehow we will need to allocate some points to running club. The running club was at the peak was 10 or 11 people. So we need to encourage to link to a running club that if you join the running club, you will get some points towards your team as well. And the rest are still up for debate. Melvin will sort of send off a survey monkey to have a list of all the events that you want. We had a meeting last Friday. We will add a few more items. We will include prawn fishing as well. Somebody said it was a sports. Again, if there's a lot of people interested, we can do prawn fishing. Not me, but somebody else. All right, we will have also, you saw the cat. If the cat can do Jenga, we can do Jenga. All right, so again, these are sort of what we have lined up overall. Any questions so far? Yeah, the only thing I forgot to mention is we've got sort of permission that we'll have this event internally at 5 p.m. on alternate Fridays. So you are getting paid to play games in ACR. All right, Bobby, is that correct? Yeah. I think all the serious work, we need to have a bit more fun in the company as well. Unfortunately, I think the survey from Waylin, we didn't have a gauge for fun. I think fun was pretty low down in ACR if you do a survey. Right? So we have to up the fun sort of level a bit more. And it's part of it also, we have more collaboration within the teams, right? I think you probably will have a team with different team members. In the past, bowling will be IT or claims. Now we want you guys to have a mingle. What else is there? The first event we'll have, we'll try to start after office revamp, maybe third week. Bowling will be set up for June 12th, right, Dave? Is that correct? Yeah, we have confirmed as a Singapore Recreation Club. We need minimum 2 teams for you all. Again, this will be a revamp. We have more details coming out. Winning become less important. It's about teamwork. If you see most of the events, like table tennis, everything is not about single. It's about teamwork. We have all doubles teams. Right? So you need to find, I know 8th floor is going to be a lot busier now after the revamp that people will be playing futsal overall. We will provide some equipment, like maybe some darts, table tennis bats, but the football boots all will not be provided. You have to get your own gear. The only thing about annual dinner showtime, you have initially a $500 budget for your team, but it's on a claim submission basis for your costume or prop or whatever you need to. Submit those to Cordy. We'll keep track of that. Overall, anything else? Plus, we still have our quarterly bond at Sandbox. This year, we are getting rid of the movie night, because we're going to bring your kids to work day, because I think it's better for people to interact. We don't want employees to be bonding too much at the theater in the dark, so we prefer bring your kids to work day. Yeah. What else is there? I think that's about it. So you guys have, what time do we end, Bobby or Carol?
We have 12 o'clock.
We have
Yeah.
11 to 12.
Yeah, you have at least until 11:45. You're in the team now. Please either move to the back or you move your chairs around. Come up with a team name.
Well, look, can we do the Q&A first and then do...
Sorry, Bobby.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, but thank you very much, Wai Loon, for giving us a quick overview of what the Ministry of Funds is going to be up to. Yes, and I'm quite glad you're not getting paid a minister's salary, otherwise we'd be bankrupt. I also know what Wai Loon does now during office hours is obviously spending a lot of his time surfing the net looking at cat videos, which is why he's in an office and his office door is mostly closed. Not quite. All right. It's 11:22. As I said, we'd scheduled to run this until midday, but I'm also conscious that we've shared a lot of information with you. We've given you opportunities for questions throughout, but usually we get them at the end, particularly after you've seen all the stuff that we've had to share with you. So I would like to open the floor to questions. We've got members of EXCO dotted around as well, if I'm sure they would like to contribute. So do we have any questions from anyone, or questions that have been sent in from our colleagues sitting in any of our overseas offices?
Yeah, so maybe as usual, let's start with questions from the floor in Singapore first, and then we'll move on to any questions that might come through the question portal. For our overseas offices, if you have questions, please input it in the question portal on the conferencing platform. If you have a question here on the floor in Singapore, please raise your hands. We'll come to you with a microphone. If you could please state your name and your department. This is for the benefit of our colleagues overseas.
Bobby, thank you. Simon from Marine. Although our results weren't great, as you say, the results compared to our peers is probably not bad. Is there any more positive news from the rating agencies in terms of the security rating?
Thanks, Simon. So if you recall, we moved our rating cycle, or we moved our rating conversation with AM Best and S&P to be more in the middle of the year now. We used to have our rating cycle or our rating come out in November, December previously. Now, after last year, we moved that to June, July, with a rating coming out in September. Of course, we don't only speak to them once a year. We speak to them continuously, and we present to them changes. We keep them updated and informed. We did a recent update to AM Best about a month ago, and sort of brought them up to speed in terms of financial year results, changes within the company, so on and so forth. We have also, where's TJ? Is TJ here today? No? Okay. So I'm sure we would have done the same thing with S&P as well. And they've taken all of that on board. The next conversation will be the formal rating conversation that we will have with them. They understand where we are. They can see the progress that we are making. I think more importantly, AM Best still do have a negative view of the business, which they put on us since the Atlas process. We would like that dropped, hopefully sooner than later. For them, they would like to see our operating performance improve before they do so. So operating performance means we start to generate an underwriting profit, which means our combined ratio has to be less than 100%, 100% or below. Because that means, therefore, we're a sustainable business. We don't depend on Don every year and his team making money for us from an investment perspective. Okay, that's what they're looking for. Before they can say, we'll take away the negative view on you and we'll look to maybe even improve your rating, because we're extremely well capitalized. Capital is not the problem for ACR. It's operating performance. Always has been. Okay? So I think it's unlikely that AM Best will improve our rating this year, because as you've seen, our operating performance wasn't great last year. Okay? But what we have to continue doing is the improvements that we've made, the underlying improvements that we're making in terms of staff, quality of business, so on and so forth, will start to come through this year and next year. And that's when I think we will start to see the improvement or rather we will start to see AM Best and S&P take a slightly more positive view of our business. Having said that, S&P and AM Best also have a negative view of the reinsurance industry as a whole right now. Okay? They can see the results. They can see that margins have consistently been coming down, although there are early signs of hardening in some markets, so that may change their perception. But it's not just the fact that they have a negative view of ACR, they have a negative view of the sector as a whole. Okay? Our job is to be the best top quartile of reinsurance firms, and that's what we're committed to doing. Okay? Thanks, Simon. Hope that answers your question. Okay. Simon doesn't get paid to ask those questions, by the way. He asks questions every town hall.
Yeah. This is Adam from Actuarial. I've got two questions. The first one is on natural catastrophes. So obviously you talked at the beginning about how 2018 our performance was largely driven by Nat Cats. Generally in the media and in the insurance press, there's a lot of conversations about climate change and the impact of climate change on the frequency and severity of natural catastrophes. I guess this is something that's difficult to assess on a year-by-year basis because there's a lot of volatility and it's hard to tell sometimes. But I guess my question is, do you think the insurance and reinsurance industry as a whole, and then I guess ACR in particular as well, do we think we're in a position to be able to respond if there is a long-term increase in catastrophes? Second question, very quick, which is, we talked about cyber at the beginning. Do we have a cyber insurance policy that we purchase?
Okay, thanks for those two questions, Adam. I'll answer the second one because that's a quick one. Cyber, yes, we do. We also purchased a range of other protections as well, including D&O. Do we know? Can someone remind me what limits do we buy for the cyber policy that we buy? $10 million. It's not cyber specific, but it's part of an overall GL policy in a way that we buy. Limits that you can buy are not huge, but of course there's also a cost to it as well. But ideally, the way to manage our cyber exposure is, in the very many ways that we've described it, and not having reliance upon an insurance policy. In terms of your first question, which is a question which taxes a lot of us, is climate change, if you're not Donald Trump, who denies that there's such a thing as climate change, is climate change leading to potentially more frequency and severity? And we've seen, particularly in 17 and 18, we've seen higher frequency, we've seen higher severity, not just from North America, but also in Asia Pacific. Okay? There is an enormous amount of research that's going on to determine whether that's a trend which will continue over time. There is an enormous amount of work that's going on by the modeling agencies, as well as by some of our larger peers, to determine whether models should be adjusted for that, to take into account, you know, the fact that we may potentially be entering an era where historical, results are not exactly the way things are going to work out in the future. I think the view is it's too early to say anything on the back of 2 years, but there's certainly a lot of thought that's going on right now, I say, within the reinsurance community, within the modeling community, and which is exercising the minds of actuarial teams, aggregate management teams, so on and so forth, as to are we seeing some significant fundamental changes which we need to reflect in our pricing models. I think it's fair to say it's too early. Soren, Hetal, do you have a view?
No, just something to add. I think I agree with Bobby. I mean, when we have discussions with scientists and you say, look, is this now the new normal? Usually people tell you, give me 100 years of data and I'll tell you if it is. So far, everyone says, look, there's always been cycles and there's always been clustering where we have 2 or 3 years with more activity than others. And different people have slightly different views. The long-term trend is not that far off the norm. We always had years, that we had higher activity than others. But I think it's the perception, right? I think we all feel you see much more in the news nowadays about a big flood loss, a big storm. I think it's on top of everyone's mind, not only in the insurance reinsurance industry, but also as far as governments are concerned. And where we are positioned, and to your question, are we sitting in the right spot and what can we do about it? I think there's 2 things to this. One, can we change it? No, right? But how do we react as an industry? I think as far as ACR is concerned, we have to look at it very carefully because it keeps me awake at night, right? In the past, you had 1 loss a year, a big one, and then you had 4 years of more quiet activity. And that's how reinsurance works, right? You take the peaks out. If we now have these years every single year, we have a fundamental problem in our business model. And that's why we have to watch this very carefully, and we do, and we look at the trends more on a short-term basis. I can't wait another 100 years. But at the same time, because it is on top of everyone's mind, you see so many more governments now, especially in the Asian region, getting absolutely on top of it and saying, look, there is more activity, things are happening, there are reinsurance solutions available, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, put a lot of research in it and work very closely with reinsurers. And that will result in more capacity being purchased. And being based here creates massive opportunities for us going forward. So I think there's really 2 things to it. I think there's, on the one hand, the danger to our operating model as far as ACR is concerned. And that's where we also need your help and need Anu's and the CAT team's help to assess it properly in the short to medium term and adjust our risk appetite accordingly. Right? So maybe it's time to move up a little bit in, as far as CAT programs is concerned, or whichever way we want to deal with it. But I think as far as opportunities are concerned, I think the next 5 years are going to be great as far as reinsurance purchase and so on is there, and we're best positioned to take advantage of it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi there, I'm Rory from Offshore Energy. Quick question. With all the positive changes and the hires coming in to ACR, will the company partake, or do the company partake in broker surveys where you can measure this kind of positive reputational gains with the broking community?
Thanks, Rory. I thought you were going to say Rory from Aspen there, from Habit, but you didn't. Good on you. We do at the moment sort of have informal sessions with brokers and getting feedback from them. I think at some point we'll probably need to formalize that. But of course, sometimes when you formalize things with brokers, it usually tends to mean that we have to pay them for something. So on the basis that we're being very careful in terms of how we're spending our money, and on the basis that brokers already make a very healthy margin from us, I'm loath to pay them any more money at the moment. However, having said that, we will need to go through an exercise where we get some more formal and quantitative as well as qualitative feedback from them And that's something that I think as we bed the new FAC and specialty team, as the treaty team, sort of make further inroads in terms of what they want to achieve for the rest of this year, we may be thinking about that come last quarter of this year and maybe first quarter of next year. But for the moment, I think we're getting enough informal feedback that it gives us a sense that we're moving in the right direction. Anyone else from the floor?
Simon again from Marine. There's a lot of stuff at the moment about business being placed onto platforms, especially in London with PPL. Do you see that as a threat or an opportunity for ACR?
I think from where I sit and from where we sit as a management team, electronic placement of risks is something that will become a normal feature of our business over the next 5 to 10 years' time. So we have to be ready for it. Part of the work that we're doing on the transformation piece is to frankly give us the tools to plug and play as we see fit across platforms. So we are working towards bringing the technology into the firm to enable us precisely to do that. The old-fashioned, and it's called the old-fashioned way of writing, seeing business, brokers coming in or brokers sending us submissions through emails or cedents, will over time reduce. And more risks will be put through platforms, electronic media, and we need to find ways of more effectively, more efficiently looking at it, quoting it, determining whether we want to look at something, analyzing it, pricing it, and putting it onto our systems. The RPA was one example where we can use technology to facilitate claims process. We also need to look at how we facilitate the underwriting process, pricing, so on and so forth. So absolutely, we see electronic platforms as being a key part, a key enabler for us to grow going forward, but also to do so without having to add another 200 people to the firm. Okay? This is where we can scale our business to be 3 times, 4 times the size that we currently are without having to add 3 or 4 times the number of people to look after that business. What it means is therefore that the OPEX, the operational cost, start to fall or grow at a slower pace than our income does, which is exactly what we want. Okay? So this is the end result. This is one of the outcomes, of very many outcomes of Maserati, of putting in of the amount of time we spent on the proof of concept, on looking at shared services, so on and so forth, is to enable us to be that reinsurer of the future where we do things cheaper, faster, better, more efficient, gives us a better handle on our business, and we're able to tackle scale, complexity, and do it quickly and provide a great service. So that's what we're preparing ourselves for. Not by throwing people at the problem, which is historically what people have done. And frankly, some of our bigger peers and competitors are going to find it tough because we only have 1 or 2 systems and we need to get rid of. A lot of these larger companies have 20, 30 legacy systems and a huge amount of data, which trying to integrate that and convert that and put that into one system is going to be an absolute nightmare for them. So being small sometimes is beautiful. Any more? We've got time. Can't just be Simon who's got questions. I'm sure you must have questions for some of the other ExCo members.
I've been refreshing the online portal as well, and no questions coming in from overseas.
Okay. Sure, we have one more question from somewhere. If not, no? No? Okay, so when do we get on with the team activity and picking your names and doing what else Wai-Loon's got in mind for you? Thank you. Oh, I do have a key takeaway slide. Sorry, absolutely, I forgot about that. Hasn't got numbers on it this time, I think, but maybe I should keep those 3 numbers that I shared with you last time. So, 3 key takeaways from this town hall are I know our numbers for 18 weren't that great, okay? But put that into context. The whole industry was impacted by the higher than average cat losses in 18, okay? So all the progress, all the good work that we did, okay, in 18 didn't really translate from a financial perspective. We made a loss, a financial loss, which is not great. We didn't actually create any value as a group of people for our shareholders, but it's understandable from a perspective of where the industry sat. Having said that, we can't do that every year. Well, I won't be here every year if we're doing that, okay? As simple as that. So we need to hopefully all keep working hard and deliver this new ACR that we're all working hard at delivering, which is, therefore, becomes a resilient, profitable reinsurer in the longer term, okay? And I know we're on the way to doing that. I can see if I look at 19, great start. If I look at the financials, I can see that coming through. If I look at the interaction, the quality of conversations, the intellectual input, the buzz that I get from visiting not just Singapore, but all of our various offices, the feedback that I get from the brokers that we deal with, all tells us, the management team, that we're moving in the right direction. We've got significant momentum behind us. For some of you who may not have that much interaction with the external world, to brokers or clients, or have maybe friends working in the reinsurance industry, let me assure you, the way people are talking about ACR now compared to 24 months ago is very, very different. I'm not just saying that because I'm standing here and I've only been here 18 months. It is true. Okay? There's a very different feel about ACR now from the external world. Okay? We get CVs constantly from people now wanting to come in and work and join this project. Okay? That wasn't happening when I first joined. It's a very different view that people have of us. We're now being asked to join client meetings by the large brokers. They're now putting some of their very senior people in front of us because they see us potentially as being a very key partner for them in the longer term. And again, that speaks volumes of where we are compared to 12 months, 24 months ago. Okay? So you may not be seeing it, but trust me, it is happening. And I'm convinced if we have a normal year, our 19 results are going to be excellent. We just need to keep plugging and need to keep working and delivering on that. We've also done a huge amount of work last year in terms of defining culture, defining mission, vision, values, and trying to put that center of mind. Having a great strategy is great. Okay? It kind of takes us, it's going to get us part of the way there. But if we're not clear about what we're trying to achieve, if we're not clear about what culture it is that we want and how we go about embedding it into the firm, we will fail. We need to have a mixture of all of them working together for us to be that top quartile reinsurance firm going forward. Okay? So the culture work isn't forgotten for 18. It carries on in 19, it just takes a different form. Okay? Creating that winning team, creating that mentality, creating that wish for people to work together better, talking to each other, not just sending emails, okay? Getting on and finding solutions as opposed to drama, that's what we want. And that's what will make us a winning team, not just a strategy which is on paper. Okay, and that's all down to you. You have the ability to influence this. You have the ability to make us winners. It's all down to you. It's not down to a few members of ExCo. It's your contribution. So when we come back here in a year's time, we'd like to be able to look at some 19 numbers that reflect all the great work that you've done. Hopefully it'll also mean better bonuses for all of us. But frankly, it'll mean a better, stronger firm for all of us. Okay? That's why this town hall is very, very important. Because it's setting the scene really for 19, which is the first year where we're executing on that strategic plan. If we get it right for 19, we're going to get it right for 20, 21, so on and so forth, and we'll just keep improving. Okay? This is the first real year where there's meaningful change. We're getting feedback from the external world that we're doing it right, but the numbers have to, is the final proof. And they will come. But there's still a lot of hard work ahead. And I'm sure you're going to help us in terms of achieving it. Okay? Thank you very much.